everyone. Welcome back to Two Girls, One Crime podcast with Megan and Emily. Say hello, Emily.
Hey, welcome back.
If you listened to our last episode on Jeffrey Dahmer, thank you so much. We had so much fun making it, and we're so excited to continue to make it. This week, we are going to talk about a case that has over 30,000 pieces of evidence, over 20,000 tips, and over 1,000 people that have been interviewed that have relations to the crime or possible suspects, and that is the JonBenet Ramsey case. Just like normal, we are going to talk about kind of the background of all the individuals involved, and then we're going to move on to the actual crime itself. So, kicking us off, I'm going to talk about some of that family history in there. For those of you who don't know, the family was the Ramsey family, which consisted of John, Patsy, Burke, and then JonBenet, who at the time was 6 years old. JonBenet's father, who was just JonBenet, was the president of an Access Technologies organization, former Navy pilot from Michigan, and married Patsy Ramsey in 1980, who worked as a secretary at this company. They fell in love, got married, and then had two children. Burke, who was the oldest son, who was 9 years old at the time of this crime going down, and JonBenet was 6 years old. Patsy Ramsey was a stay-at-home mother. She was a former beauty queen, and just keeping this in mind as we kind of dive into some of the theories, because there are so many theories here and so many like conspiracy type things that are going on.
Did we also say that this is still an unsolved case? So that's why there are so many theories, because it's not solved.
Yes, it has been years. This all happened in, I believe, 1996. What? This all happened in 1996, and Emily's going to dive deeper into that, but it has been years, and there has been really no significant leads, nothing, so a lot of this is just kind of hypotheticals and all the above. But diving a little bit more into who JonBenet Ramsey was, she was born in August 6, 1990 in Atlanta, Georgia, before her family moved to Boulder, Colorado in 1991. And where this kind of turns into a little bit more detail here, she was a beauty queen. She started doing beauty pageants in 1994 in Michigan, and she won her first beauty pageant and continued on there. Like I said earlier, Patsy was a former beauty queen, and she was heavily involved in helping JonBenet kind of get into becoming a beauty queen, diving into that world. And honestly, like, when I was talking to Em prior to us filming, and there's not a lot of information about kind of the family before all of this. Obviously, it's been, 3 decades, 2 decades, whatever you want to call it. Has it been 3 decades?
Still don't know our math.
Still don't know our math.
No, it's been 20 years exactly, right? It's 2026.
Oh my god, yeah.
Wait.
Oh my gosh.
It's been 30 years.
It's been 30 years. We're not the best at math. That's why we went into criminology and psychology.
Yeah, 30 years.
30 years. And there's not a lot about her before, but really just harping on the fact that she was a beauty queen. At the time, she was pretty sexualized, because beauty contests back then were a lot of that, like, showing off your body. And even though she was 6 years old, that was kind of the norm of these beauty contests. So that is really the information. A couple things to keep in mind. Just, I feel like they were huge touching stones throughout, like, some of the documentation out there. Her father, JonBenet, was married prior to this marriage to Patsy. He divorced his first wife in 1978 after cheating on her and having an inappropriate relationship with someone who is not Patsy. And Patsy also died of ovarian cancer and also was diagnosed twice, one in 1993, and that had a significant point, which we can touch on later, but she was really worried when she had that diagnosis and was just so relieved to be involved in making her daughter a beauty queen and really getting her to where she wanted to go. So that's really all the background information I got on the family. And definitely there's a lot more on the crime, I feel like, out there.
Yeah, the crime, and definitely there's like 1,000,001 theories that people throw out there, and that are, I feel like, new ones are even coming out all the time.
Literally,
But
literally
also about,
thousands.
yeah, about JonBenet and her like pageants. Like I feel like every picture online of her is of her in her like pageant outfits and like pageant hair. Like that's what they're showing to the public, which is also kind of crazy as a
Yeah,
6 year old.
yeah, and I think like again we'll dive into it, but a lot of theories are kind of like, well, she's portrayed as this like woman kind of character in like all of these posts and pictures of her that are online even prior to her unfortunate death. Like they were very much present all around like the media of like the beauty world and stuff like that. So it's very crazy to think about a 6 year old with that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
who even knows?
Okay, well, I will get into the crime itself, which again, it's still kind of unsolved who did it. But so, like Megan said, she was 6, and she was actually reported missing the day after Christmas of 1996 at about like 6 in the morning. Also, like Megan said, the father, John, has other kids who live in Michigan. So they were planning to go celebrate a second Christmas in Michigan, which is why they were up so early. And this is when John and Patsy both found the ransom note on the stairs of their house, and then they realized that JonBenet was gone. So that's kind of how it all started, how they noticed that she was missing. And about 7 hours later, she was found in the family's basement of their home. We later learned from autopsy that she died from being struck in the head, so she had a broken skull, and she was strangled. So, again, this case is still unsolved, so we don't know exactly who did it or exactly what happened, but we know that that's how she died. So there was also a lot of evidence left on the scene. There was a like cord and a broken paintbrush handle, which was used to strangle her. So that was obviously found on her in the basement. She also had a broken skull, like I said, and there were signs of sexual assault. So that was kind of everything that was at the crime scene and on the of what happened to her. But something else that was definitely a bit suspicious was that there's like I said, the 2.5-page ransom note that was found inside the home. It was actually written on the mother's notepad, which is interesting, and it demanded $118,000, which was the exact same amount that Mr. Ramsey just got in a bonus. So that's kind of a bit interesting, like how would someone know that type of thing. So the Ramsey family were definitely main suspects for a while since the ransom note was found on her notepad. Police had theories that they had staged the body there to try to keep their innocence.
I feel like it's also if you're leaving a ransom note and like you're kidnapping someone, something's happening, you wouldn't write a 2.5-page letter.
Right,
That's like
right,
a couple sentences, give this
right,
number a phone call, move on with your day.
right. It all is a little bit suspicious and odd. Okay, moving on. So in 1991, the public and the courts were told that Burke, the brother, was not a suspect. So he was removed from the situation 3 years later. In 2002, a new district attorney took over this case and had a theory that maybe there was an intruder that came into the home and committed this murder, which we could see possible because, again, it could have been staged, but there was a broken window coming into the basement. So you never know there. And then in 2003, the DNA that was found on JonBenet's clothing did not belong to anyone in her family, and it belonged to an unknown male. So they still don't know and still didn't know then. Like Megan said, there were so many calls, so many tips processed, but there was actually one man named John Mark Carr who confessed to these crimes in 2006, but then his DNA didn't match, so he was later let off, but that was a major false lead in this case, which was very unfortunate. And then in 2008, which is like kind of the most recent we have, is that the Ramsey family were all taken off of the suspect list. So this case is still unsolved. There hasn't really been much new
Movement.
evidence. Yeah. So that's kind of the whole case and what exactly was on the crime scene. But Megan and I wanted to talk about some theories and what our thoughts were, and then some kind of questions that we have, the public has, Google, all of that.
Yeah, I
So,
feel like this case, every time I think about it, I'm always like, oh, it should be so straightforward, but
I
it's
know.
like the more you really dive into it, and even like the Ramsey family, when you talk about like, oh, well, they were not ruled as suspects anymore, they've been let go and all that stuff, but there's so many connections to it of like, well,
Yeah.
how did this person know this? Like, how did you not find your child in your basement for 7 hours? Just little
Yeah.
things where it, to this day, I'm like, I don't know. I feel like there's something there.
Yeah, and I personally feel like if I had a child who was missing, or like even when I've babysat, like if you can't find someone for a second, like you search everywhere for it, like for
Mm-hmm.
them or for whatever you're missing. So I feel
Mm-hmm.
like it is very odd that they wouldn't check like every nook and cranny of their house to find this 6 year old girl that is supposedly gone. So that definitely is puzzling. Um, yeah, so I guess I'll go into some theories that I
Mm-hmm.
saw and saw on the documentary and read about also. Okay, some theories that we saw in the documentary and everything that I've read. There's pineapple found in JonBenet's esophagus during the autopsy, which kind of contradicts everything that her parents actually said because on Christmas Day, they went to their friend's house for a Christmas party, and the parents told the police that when they got home from that Christmas party, JonBenet was asleep in the car. They carried her upstairs, and she was asleep the whole time and continued to sleep until she got into her bed.
Mm-hmm.
Which the autopsy and the medical examiner both have said that if there is pineapple in her esophagus, she had to have eaten it at least 2 hours before her death. And there was no pineapple at the Christmas party. There was a bowl of pineapple and milk found on the table once the police showed
Mm-hmm.
up, which was, I guess, known in the Ramsey family to be Burke, her brother, and her favorite like snack, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the bowl only had fingerprints of JonBenet and Burke on it, no one else. And there was a cup that was empty that only had Burke's fingerprints on it.
Mm-hmm.
So people were kind of like theorizing maybe Burke had this bowl of pineapple and was eating it. It was also a huge portion. And so, like, some videos that I saw were like, oh, like a kid probably definitely poured that for themselves because it was like a heaping bowl, like not a normal serving. So people were saying, oh, maybe Burke had this bowl of pineapple. JonBenet heard him downstairs, went down, tried to take a piece of pineapple, and he actually is the one who hit her over the head, which there is evidence that Burke had temper issues. Like he actually had hit JonBenet in the head with a golf club a few years earlier. So it's not totally out of the realm that he could have done it again. But like, does
Mm-hmm.
this mean that her parents lied about her being asleep? Like, why would they lie about that? Like, they claim that they don't know how the bowl of pineapple got there. So I don't. That is puzzling to me.
Yeah, and honestly, like theoretically, like older brother could have just, in to play devil's advocate, like older brother could have 100% like just gotten some pineapple. She ate some without them knowing, and then went back up to bed, and someone
Yeah.
did something to her. But that still leaves like, well, why didn't, let's say little brother Burke was involved? Well, why isn't he possible? And there could be this out there. I would love someone to fact check me if I'm wrong. Why didn't he say like, no, I got this for my sister? I blah 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 blah
Right.
blah. That's just kind of weird to me.
Right. And like, his fingerprints are on it. Her fingerprints are on it. Like, again, fact check me if I'm also wrong, but like, why? Like, there's no way that he could deny being by that bowl of pineapple type of thing.
No.
Even if he didn't do anything, like, you clearly were touching the bowl in the cup. Like,
Well,
I don't know.
I know, and I think it's hard like with where he's concerned because he was a minor at the time of the case, so like DA and the police department had to keep a lot of like what they were investigating with him
Yeah.
secretive because it
Yeah.
is involving a minor, parents' permission, all those ethical and legal things that people talk about. But it's very strange,
It
and
is
we
very
can even
strange.
dive into this a little bit, like his Dr. Phil interview, where like I believe 20 years later he was an adult at this point and he went on Dr. Phil, and some of you may know it, but there's this really awkward interview where he's talking about his sister and he has this like massive smile on his face. He is so
Yeah.
happy, and he is like, oh, like I just want to keep her memory alive and like the story going. But isn't it also strange that you're sitting there talking about your sister and you just have this massive smile on your
That's like an
face?
unsolved murder case, also. It's not just
Mhm.
like, oh, I don't even know. Yeah, that's definitely a bit odd if I do
Yeah.
say so.
Yeah, and also it's like I think of the I can't think of the name at the moment, but the cruise, the individual who went missing on the cruise.
Oh yeah, that we like just recently watched.
So I even think about like with the Amy Bradley case, and for those of you who don't know, she went missing on a cruise ship. Still haven't found her to this day. Her family just recently did a Netflix documentary talking about the case, all of the trauma that's come with it, all the leads, all that. Her brother is sitting there like he does not look pleased. He's
Yeah,
very like, I'm concerned, like it sucks knowing that I'm older than maybe my sister was, or
yeah,
growing up without her. I don't have kids for this reason. And it was like a ooh like he's not okay, and
yeah.
him sitting over here smiling like, no, I didn't do anything. Like it's just a little odd.
Yeah, and that actually connects to what I was planning on saying next is that's the same way with the parents.
Mm-hmm.
There's this like interview panel, I don't know, both of them are like sitting up on a stage. And John Ramsey was saying like he was speaking about like police theories or whatever, and he said, and it's quoted, so I'm going to read it. He said, "That's the police theory, that Burke hit his sister and killed her, and then we, to protect Burke, staged this whole strangulation and ransom note craziness. That theory would not make good crime fiction on television."
Like, who says
First of all, it
that?
seemed so staged and like rehearsed when he was saying it. Like he said it multiple times. But
Mm-hmm.
also like who references crime fiction on television? Like, oh, that wouldn't make good TV about their daughter who they don't know what happened to her. Well, they seem to, maybe. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But like it's an unsolved case and you're like making jokes about it. Like
Yeah.
it's very odd.
It's very strange, and I feel like kind of since we talked about Mr. Burke, moving into like Patsy Ramsey, that's another one where there's that theory there. And
Yeah.
for Patsy, the big theory with that is, again, going back to the pageant, she was pretty much JonBenet's coach. Like she
Yeah.
was coaching her through it. And again, sometimes parents, for those of you who have experienced them versus not, tend to kind of really get involved, like to kind of take over. Kid has to be perfect in the thing that the parent used to do. And there's theories that for whatever reason, JonBenet Ramsey did something wrong. She wet her bed, something of that. She's a 6-year-old, and
Yeah.
Patsy got so angry and rageful that she hit her on the head accidentally. And then family, Burke being left out of it, so John helped cover it up and pretended that it was this like ransom note to win all these craziness.
Yeah, and like the part that doesn't even really get mentioned a lot is the like that she was sexually assaulted, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that was found on her clothing even. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like where does that even come into play too?
Yeah, and I think that part is like, of course, it's horrible that that occurred to her, and it's crazy that it's like when we think about these family theories, you're like, well, that does make sense, but there was no DNA from Burke, John, or Patsy that was
Yeah.
attached to her clothing. It was just some random person.
Yeah.
Um, and
Which is
again,
also
back.
weird cuz I feel like like it's been going on so long, so I feel like they must have like tested everybody's DNA around the family, right? And like it's still
Mhm.
unknown. So I
Yeah.
don't know. That's another part that's like whose DNA is this?
Well, I'm also curious because, like, in 1990, 1996, correct? Like, DNA was just slowly coming out. Like, it wasn't really a thing. And on top of that, they're continuing to do all these DNA tests, but we're working now with 30 years of
Yeah.
DNA. At this point, also, who knows how large it is in comparison to like what we can grab from a piece of hair. Like it
Yeah.
just, we don't know some of those details there, but I just find it so interesting where kind of going back to Patsy, where it's like there were theories out there that she wrote the ransom note
Yeah.
because there was a copy, one might say, or like a practice one of where she's writing Dear R, and it's
Yeah.
her handwriting. And if you compare the two, it's so similar where it is kind of eerie. Even though I believe a criminalist, or the handwriting experts, I don't know what they're called, like ruled that it wasn't her handwriting. So that's even odd.
Yeah, and I actually remember learning about this case for the first time in a forensics class that I was taking in high school. And we actually did like handwriting analysis to try to like show, oh, because we watched the documentary, or we watched, maybe it was the 60 Minutes one, I forget. But it was like crazy because it's like these do look very similar. Like there were parts that were different, but like a lot of the signature parts of her different handwriting like did connect over. And we did like this whole experiment where like we would write the same thing a few times and like compare. So I did find that interesting to be like, oh, like that someone did totally rule her out and that it's like not her handwriting. But it is so strange. And that it
And
like
it
they this happened so early in the morning too. Like this murder had to have happened like in such a short window by the time they got home to then by the time they were woken up. So it's
well,
very weird.
and on top of that, again, going back to like them losing her and not knowing where she is and thinking she's kidnapped, you didn't think to check your basement?
I know.
Like, your child was down there for 7 hours, and or longer than that possibly, and you didn't think to go check. Like, I
I
would check
know.
everywhere in my home. I don't care if I see a ransom note or not. I would check to see if maybe my child was hiding somewhere.
Right, right. It's all very weird.
Yeah. I think the last one for the family members theories, and then we can kind of go into two, they're not really fun ones, but they're interesting ones. Was with John Ramsey, who's the father. There's speculation that he was sexually abusing her like for a long time, and this continued, and he accidentally killed her, like sexually abused, then killed her. And then that kind of ended with what it was, where Patsy got involved and they covered up this whole murder. So that one I feel like is really hard because it's like his DNA wasn't found, but on top of that, like with the sexual abuse, it was, unfortunately, it was with a paintbrush, and it wasn't necessarily like a body contact thing, but also DNA was
Yeah.
tested. See, again, this is where
I
it gets
know.
so
It
weird.
all goes back to it. And again, like I feel like we said this a million times last week in our last episode, but like if this had happened today with all of the instruments and everything that they have now, like who knows? Like it could have been solved overnight. Like we really don't know, which is just it's hard to think about.
It's
Back in the
very
day.
back in the day when all this was going down. Yeah, it's horrible, and it's so fascinating because we do get the opportunity to talk about these really cool things, or like these complicated cases, but it definitely is heartbreaking when you're like, if this happened now, like hopefully there
I
would have been
know.
a little bit of progress.
I know. And there just would have been like databases with DNA and like fingerprint, like there just would have been all of it, which that's hard.
So, one of the fun, not fun theories, there's two, maybe three we can touch on since we got the time. One of them is called the Santa theory. And it sounds very strange, but the idea is this guy whose name was Bill McReynolds, I think I'm saying that properly. He would dress up as Santa at a mall, take pictures with kids, do it per usual. And JonBenet took a picture with him, and then he took a particular interest in her, started like looking her up. And again, she was a beauty queen, so she's all over if you really started to like look for information.
Yeah.
And there was rumor that he took that special interest. He like Emily said, broke into the window, broke into the house, sexually abused her, and then he took off and just went on with his day. But that one's also very strange because it's just a random person. Again, DNA did not match this particular individual. I believe he was interviewed.
Yeah. All right, so another one that I kind of touched on earlier was about John Mark Carr, who was the man who falsely confessed to this murder. So he was a former teacher who, again, confessed in 2006. He was actually arrested for this since he confessed in Thailand. But his details were kind of like inconsistent with what happened to her death. And again, the DNA did not match. He was eventually cleared. And again, there was no evidence of placing him at the scene. He wasn't even in Colorado at the time. The DNA did not match the DNA on her body, like I said. He did have a fascination with pedophilia, so that is weird, especially since we mentioned all about how she was like, a lot of her pictures online were in all of her like pageant gear. So that's definitely a little bit creepy. So yeah, he ended up confessing. Obviously, they found out that he was not even in the state at the time, so it obviously wasn't him. But that is a weird little puzzle piece.
See, and it's like, okay, why this random person, obviously there's probably some things going on if he is engaging in pedophilia, but why would you confess to a murder that you did not
I
commit?
know.
Go to prison.
Yeah.
Like, he should go either way because of the pedophilia stuff, but why would you confess to murdering someone and be there longer? And also, he was like adamant about it too, where he was like, oh, it's going to take a long time. Like a direct quote, oh, it would take several hours to describe that. It's a very involved series of events that would involve a lot of time. It's very painful for me to talk about. Why would you say that if it didn't actually happen?
I just think it's like his pedophilia in his brain, and he just like created this scenario, which is disgusting.
It's horrible, and it's like, who even knows, right? Where it's like, to this day, we don't know. So theoretically, he so could have done it. He
Right.
could be doing it, and maybe there was someone else involved. But then again, it brings up all of these questions like, why this ransom note? Why the
Yeah.
pineapple? Why did it say the exact amount of John Ramsey's bonus?
Yeah.
And then you don't actually, there's no one who's looking for money because she's already dead. It just
Right.
makes no sense.
In the family's basement, also, not just like
In the family's
the
basement.
ransom note did say that she was kidnapped, so like maybe that's why they didn't look in the basement. But like personally, I think I still would.
I still would too. And it's like, are you really going to sit here and be like, no, like it didn't happen?
Oh, the ransom note told us that she's not here. Like, no.
Yeah, I would still look. I would look
Yeah.
for anything I could find to prove, like, oh, my child is here. Because there was no phone number to be like, give this
Yeah.
number a call. So
Right.
it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Um, so,
I also feel I saw one other thing where it was that there was a, I don't remember his name, which I can put it on the screen if I find it, or put it in here or something. But there was a sex offender that was living in Boulder at the time, and he didn't really have a connection at all, but he told a friend, I guess, that he like hurt a little girl or something like that.
yes.
So that's also another like theory that one of these intruders, like a stalker or the Santa Claus guy, like you said, or the sex offender, like one of the theories is that one of them broke into the house.
Yeah.
Don't know.
So who knows? And I think two more things I just want to add because I feel like they're really interesting parts of all this. And for our listeners out there, just think about this. So, two little things. So, Fleet and Patricia White, who were the Ramseys' best friends, they were family friends, that sort of thing, published a letter stating that the Ramseys were not cooperating with the police, where to this day, unfortunately, Patsy Ramsey passed away from cancer in, I believe, 2006, but literally saying they are not cooperating with the police, but they still to this day say that they've been cooperating the whole time, they've been giving them all this information, but why would two of your family friends say that? And on top of that, and this is where it really gets me, is the grand jury during all of this voted to indict the Ramseys, and the DA at the time, who was Alex Hunter, ignored the decision
Yeah.
And you can Google this. They continued to lie about that for years until finally the new DA and they started to kind of look at the crime again.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, no, like they were indicted. And then we just pretended like that wasn't a thing, which crazy.
Yeah. It just like doesn't all add up, and it's all like very, like, I feel like I and probably we like would literally do anything if our child was missing or murdered.
Yeah. And it's
Like,
like
I would
people
not be.
believed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Just gets
So
crazier the more you read or the more you think about it.
yeah, so just two little other things to think about. But for now, we're gonna go into some questions about what we found, kind of like talking a little bit about more of our perspectives and kind of what we found
Mm-hmm.
on there. But one of the questions out there was this a forced entry?
Mm-hmm.
Because initially it was reported, and like Emily mentioned, there was a broken window, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a very small space.
Yeah.
So many reporters thought that there was no one who could have gotten in there anyways.
Mm-hmm.
It was just broken to be broken. Um, and there were
Which
no
can
signs of
easily be staged,
which can easily be
especially since it's like
staged,
a basement window, like a like
like a cellar
basement window.
window.
Yes, yes.
Literally. So there were no signs of forced entry. There were no
Mm-hmm.
footsteps. But then later, there was a boot mark that was discovered,
Mm-hmm.
which then they changed it to it was a forced entry. So
Mm-hmm.
again, like Em has mentioned, this case, there's so much in there, and so much has
Yeah.
happened over the last 30 years where there's been things that they've said no to,
Yeah.
things they've said yes to. It's been all over the board.
Goes back and forth like every time someone new looks at it, I feel like. And there are
So,
so many pictures out there like of the crime scene itself in the basement. So it's just like hard to like imagine how everything can be changing so much, which like obviously not everything shows up in a picture, I guess, like especially in a basement, it could be dark or whatever. But it
yeah.
is just so weird that like I guess not all of the evidence was collected right away. Like it's just so crazy that they would then like discover something later on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So honestly, I have no opinion whether or not it was forced entry or not. Again, I personally, with my theory, think that the family was involved,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately. I don't know. I can't prove it, but I feel like it's kind of strange from you go from there's no forced entry, because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
most likely it would be forced entry to no forced entry
Right.
rather than the
Right.
other way around.
Exactly. Yeah. It's very, very odd.
Very odd. So, for our next question, a lot of people were asking, was the murder planned? And to this day, it is so unknown
Yeah.
because, again, going back to some of the evidence that Em brought up, where there was a 2.5 page ransom note, and on top of that, the ransom note had $118,000, which is the exact amount of John Ramsey's bonus, and as well as kind of talking again about how Patsy might have written it. But
Mm-hmm.
she was found dead. There was no kidnapping. She was there for hours, so kind of up in the air. And what do you think? Because I honestly have no clue.
I do agree that I feel like the family is definitely involved. I feel like kind of going back to that pineapple incident or topic, there is evidence of Burke being violent in the past and having anger issues. So I feel like maybe something did happen, like they're siblings, like they like bicker or whatever. She maybe took a piece of his pineapple and he was like, "Don't take my pineapple," whatever. I don't know. He made the bowl whatever territorial, and ended up like hitting him over the head with a flashlight, which is like what they said that the shape of the break on the skull could have been. And then I think definitely from there, the family covered it up, and made it
Yeah.
look like an intruder came in, or at least not like none of them did it type of thing. I don't know exactly how, that's my idea, but I do think that the family was definitely involved.
Yeah, I feel like there's too many things in this for them not to at least know something. Even if it was like a
Exactly.
family friend came in,
Yeah.
did something, it just makes no sense.
Or if they like
Um,
hired someone to do it. Like I just
yeah,
we will never know, and we don't know what they were thinking, and again, like you were saying, like Patsy was very, I feel like, controlling of JonBenet, making sure she was like the
Yes.
perfect image, and we never know. And we will
Yeah.
never know, probably.
Probably not one will help, but kind of going into our next question there, like motive behind all of this. 6-year-old girl in beauty pageants. A lot of people think out there, again, like Em and I have kind of alluded to, like there's a pawn, it's a plot to target her parents or family, so someone knew something, wanted to do that. Family, there's a lot of anger there. She was kind of the youngest one, manipulate all those things. But again, kind of going back to how they were the family was cleared in 2008, so they're really assuming that there's someone from the outside who was harming the family. And I feel like in terms of the motive, like again, we're never going to truly know, but she was a beauty pageant, so there may have just been
Yeah.
that disgusting pedophilia in there where someone just wanted to manipulate and do all those things. And
Yeah. Stalker, pedophilia, sex offender, like all of those, that, like we were saying earlier, that type of person. Which is
and I feel like,
scary.
yeah,
And
and
wait,
again,
did we mention that the Santa Claus guy actually came to their house before?
oh no, we did not.
Yeah, so this guy, I think, was in their house a few weeks before, I think, which is
Yes.
just even weirder because, like you said, he started his fascination with her at the mall taking pictures, and then he ended up being in their house, and then a few weeks later this happened. So,
Something very strange. Just to finally kind of like wrap up. So, with suspects outside of the family, two things to note is that I believe Santa, he was considered, and a weird part of this was his wife at the time was writing a play about a child being molested in a basement and then being murdered. So a lot
yeah.
of those connections there. Very weird coincidence if it was just a coincidence, but that was a huge part of why as well. And also there was a salvage yard worker who wore the same boots of the boot print that was found, and he ended up committing suicide in 1997. So a couple years after the murders, but I believe he was also cleared. So again, so much uncertainty in this of like what actually happened and who's
Yeah.
involved. But there are some weird things in here where it's a little jarring when you think about it.
Extremely jarring. Yeah, it's scary, especially because there are so many moving parts and just things that we will never know or not investigate or whatever. So our last question that people were asking all over Google is this case still being investigated? Which, like we've said many times, it is. The Boulder Police Department and the Colorado Cold Case Review Team continued working on this case and still are to this day. The last report was in 2024, I think. And again, they still haven't really found anything, but it's just noted that they are still working on it. But cold cases are very hard to solve.
Yes,
So,
and it's
very
been 30
sad.
years as well. And who knows? Who knows with the new technology and new resources and individuals who are just wanting to put their heart into solving this case. But as of right
Yeah.
now, there's just a lot of those unknowns and those maybes of what's going to happen.
Yeah. So many theories. Okay, well, that is the end of our second episode all about JonBenet Ramsey. Again, if you guys have any suggestions of people or crimes that we should research, please let us know. Thanks for listening on Spotify, watching on YouTube. We see all those people watching and we appreciate it. And
Feel
we're
free to
very excited.
Feel free to check us out on TikTok as well
Yes,
if you're
yes,
wanting
please do.
to leave any comments about things we're doing well, things we should
Yeah.
incorporate. But just appreciate everybody's support so far after our first
Yes.
episode.
Yes, thank you everyone.
Bye.
Bye.